So just imagine this for a second. An HR team, right? But they're not up for an award for, like, best recruitment campaign. No, they win second place for excellence for customer service at a big industry event in Singapore. That sounds, well, pretty counterintuitive, doesn't it? It really makes you stop and think, what on earth does HR customer service actually mean? And, if HR is supposed to be so central, why is it often so difficult to get good, honest feedback on their service?
That's a really great question to kick things off, because it cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of what Schneider Electric did with this award-winning initiative. They call it Voice E. That stands for Voice of Internal Customer Experience. And it basically flips the whole script. It treats employees like internal customers.
Ah, okay. So the core idea here is that HR, well, it should function like any department dealing with customers. It should be measuring its performance constantly. But traditionally, that hasn't really happened effectively, has it? What's the main roadblock you've seen? Why is getting more than just, occasional feedback so tough for organizations?
Understanding the why is key here, the problem statement, basically. Think about traditional HR feedback, maybe an annual survey, right? Or sometimes a focus group, but it's usually pretty sporadic. And it often gets skewed by what's called recency bias. You remember the thing that annoyed you last week? Maybe not the great support you got 6 months back? Plus, historically, a lot of that feedback came from the top senior managers, heads of department, HODs, not always from the actual employees using the services day to day, the real end users. And that obviously creates blind spots. HR misses opportunities to genuinely get better.
Right. So without that steady stream of feedback from everyone involved, HR is kind of flying blind. They're missing signals about how to improve their own processes, their reputation even. Okay, so that's clearly where Voice E comes in. So our mission for this deep dive is to really get into how this framework tackles those specific limitations head on. We want to explore how it captures feedback systematically right across the whole employee life cycle. And crucially, what kind of actionable insights pop out at the end. Think of this as your guide, your shortcut to understanding a really cutting-edge way to think about HR and employee experience. All right, let's unpack this a bit more. We've touched on the old ways, limited voices, maybe just senior managers. Low frequency, like annually, missing the daily stuff, and that recency effect messing things up. So given all that, what's the fundamental change? What's the big shift Voice E brings to the table?
What's really transformative, I think, is the solution itself. It's a very deliberate shift. They move away from just looking at general perceptions of HR. Instead, they focus laser-like on the actual granular experience of employees. It fully embraces this idea. Employees are internal customers. And then it builds a system to rigorously capture their voice, throughout their entire journey with the company.
And it's not just a loose idea, is it? You mentioned it's quite structured. 3 pillars.
Exactly. It's built on 3 key pillars. First, capturing feedback in real time, specific to a transaction, directly from the end user, not months later.
Okay, real time specific. Makes sense.
Second, mapping these experiences across all 7 distinct stages of the employee lifecycle. We'll get into those.
7 stages. Right.
And third, the output, generating actionable insights. Insights that drive continuous improvement and, importantly, have clear accountability attached.
That sounds incredibly thorough. Almost. Overwhelming. With all those data points, is there a risk HR gets swamped, analysis paralysis?
That's a fair point, and we'll definitely touch on how the accountability part helps prevent that. But first, to really appreciate how neat this system is, we need to walk through those 7 stages. See how Voice E actually plugs in specific touch points and measures feedback at each step.
Okay, let's do it. Stage 1, attract. So the obvious feedback here would be from hiring managers, I guess. Things like, how good was the recruitment support? Candidate quality, how long did it take? Using metrics like manager NPS Net Promoter Score for the managers. Time to fill. Quality of hire. Standard stuff.
But you hinted there's something more interesting here, something unexpected.
Yes, this is where it gets really clever, I think. A key takeaway. Voice E also captures feedback directly from the candidates themselves.
Oh, interesting.
Even those who didn't get the job.
Really? Why? They ask about the communication, the fairness of the process, their overall impression of the brand. They track things like candidate PS, clarity of communication, responsiveness. And this is just brilliant strategically. It reframes the whole candidate experience. It becomes a continuous opportunity to build the brand, even with people you don't hire immediately. It sends a message about respect, transparency. Those rejected candidates might become customers, or apply again later, or just spread positive word of mouth. It strengthens the talent pipeline and the employer brand in the long run.
That makes total sense. Wow. Okay, so you've attracted great people. Stage 2 is start, getting them onboarded. How does Voicey measure that initial experience?
Right, the start stage is actually broken down a bit.
Mhm.
First, there's the day one first impression.
Yeah.
New hires give immediate feedback. Was everything ready? Did they feel welcomed? Could they log in ID ready? That's tracked by an onboarding NPS score.
Okay, the immediate stuff. But onboarding is more than just day one, isn't it? They're settling in, understanding the culture.
Exactly. That leads to the second part is start, the plug into organization experience. This looks at the first 90 days, typically. It digs into cultural assimilation, how clear their role is, the support they got from their team, maybe a buddy if they had one. Metrics like the Role Clarity Index give HR a really clear picture of how quickly new folks are getting up to speed and feeling integrated.
Got it. So after the welcome mat is rolled out, we get into the day-to-day. Stage 3, perform. How does Voice E help HR understand and ideally improve that core experience of just doing the job?
Yeah, for the perform stage, feedback centers on the performance management process experience. How clear were the goals? How good were the appraisal chats? Was it fair? Was the feedback useful? Things like the appraisal satisfaction score, timeliness of reviews help track this. But there's a really critical new addition here, well-being and support services feedback.
Well-being. That feels very current.
It absolutely is. This captures ongoing input. Can employees easily access wellness programs? Is grievance handling fair and effective? Do they trust the support systems? They track this with things like a wellness program rating and a trust and support services score. In today's world, getting that real-time pulse on well-being is just paramount.
Crucial addition indeed. Okay, so performance and well-being are covered. What about growth and recognition? How does an employee's journey in terms of development and reward get measured?
Good question. Stage 4. Appraise and Stage 5. Recognize are actually bundled together. Voicey calls this the combined rewards experience. So this gathers feedback on everything from pay structures and benefits packages to how recognition programs land, and crucially, the perceived fairness of it all. Key metrics here would be things like a reward fairness index and looking at the perceived recognition impact.
Okay, makes sense to link appraisal and recognition to rewards. Then we hit stage 6, develop. I assume this is about training feedback like after a course.
It is, but it's broader than just that. It definitely includes the capability development experience after training. Was the content relevant? Was the trainer good?
Yeah.
Are people actually using what they learned? They track that with training NPS and maybe a learning transfer score. But there's another really important piece here, often missed. Internal mobility feedback.
Internal moves.
Yeah. When employees move to new roles or projects inside the company, Voicey captures their feedback on that process. Was it clear? Did they get support? Was the transition smooth? They use an internal mobility NPS and track ease of process.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal for keeping talent and fostering internal growth.
That's a great point. Promoting from within needs a good process, too. And finally, the inevitable stage 7. Move on. The exit. Obviously, you want feedback here. What kind of insights do they focus on collecting during separation?
All right, this is the separation experience or exit feedback.
Oh.
It looks at the practical stuff, the offboarding process, clarity on final settlements, but also the sort of softer side, the dignity of the exit process, tracked by exit NPS and process transparency. But honestly, the absolute gold here, reasons for leaving, really understanding why people are walking out the door directly from them can shine a light on systemic issues you might never see in an annual survey.
Okay, so that covers the 7 stages, stage-specific feedback. But you mentioned Voicey also includes broader measures, like overall satisfaction.
Yes, exactly. It's not just about those specific life cycle moments. There's also an annual employee satisfaction and engagement survey. This may be more traditional. It covers the bigger picture, engagement levels, inclusion, trust and leadership, organizational culture, tracked by things like an engagement index, ENPS, that's Employee Net Promoter Score, and an inclusion score.
And I think you also mentioned a survey specifically about HR itself.
Correct. Periodically, there's an HR delivery and satisfaction survey. This gauges the overall perception of HR's service quality, their responsiveness, the value they add. Metrics here might include an overall HR service score or ratings on specific turnaround times.
Wow, that is a lot of feedback coming from all angles. How do they possibly manage it all? Where does it all go?
That's where the HR performance scorecard comes in. It's the consolidation point. All this diverse feedback from every stage, every touch point, the annual surveys, it all funnels into this one scorecard. And this is where it becomes truly powerful for driving actual improvement. It allows them to monitor trends over time. And crucially, it assigns clear ownership.
Ownership. That sounds key.
Absolutely. So the talent acquisition lead owns the attract metrics. HR operations owns start. The L&D lead owns develop.
Hmm.
And the CHRO, the chief HR officer, usually takes ultimate responsibility for the overarching HR delivery scores.
That clear ownership that must directly tackle that analysis paralysis worry we had earlier. It drives real accountability, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
They can even get more sophisticated, assign different weights to various parameters to create a single composite score. This score gets tracked, maybe quarterly, and shared with leadership. It allows for really targeted action plans. It's all about turning that flood of data into focused action. And just as importantly, constantly showing employees, hey, we heard you, and here's what we're doing about it. That builds immense trust.
So when you boil it all down, why does this voice CE framework actually work so well? Why did it win those awards? It seems like a few core things really made the difference.
I think you're right. First off, it's real-time and continuous.
Hmm.
Feedback isn't an afterthought saved for an annual review. It's captured right there, at the point of experience.
Yeah.
This lets HR shift from being reactive, maybe fixing problems from last year, to being proactive and agile. They can make changes almost immediately. That massively boosts HR's strategic value.
Okay, real time. What else? Second, it's clearly broad-based. It pulls in insights from everyone, employees, managers across that entire journey. It plugs those blind spots we talked about at the start.
Third, and this is huge, it generates genuinely actionable insights.
Mm.
It doesn't just say satisfaction is down. It pinpoints specific pain points, maybe onboarding tech issues or unclear performance goals. And because there's clear ownership assigned, it's incredibly easy to see what needs fixing and who is responsible for driving that fix. And the final piece, maybe the most important outcome, is fostering a true culture of listening.
Right. It's not just collecting data.
No, by consistently acting on the feedback, showing employees their voice genuinely matters and leads to tangible change, it builds trust. And that trust, that's what boosts retention, fuels innovation, makes people feel safer and more engaged.
So let's just quickly recap this deep dive then. We've seen how adopting this mindset, treating employees as valued internal customers, and implementing a structured, real-time feedback system like Schneider Electric's voice, well, it can completely transform HR's effectiveness. And not just HR, but the entire employee experience. It really is about making HR function more like a truly data-driven, customer-focused part of the business.
Which really leaves us with a fascinating thought, doesn't it? A question for you, the listener, to ponder. If this internal customer experience approach works so well for HR, what happens if you extend that same mindset to other internal functions? Think about IT support or finance processes, maybe even the legal department. What untapped potential for improving efficiency, driving innovation, and boosting overall employee satisfaction might be sitting there, just waiting to be unlocked, if companies started applying this kind of framework more broadly.